Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to the Aurum webinar, where we discuss all matters that relate to the HR experience. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Courier, and I'm so glad that you could take time to join with us today. This month of March, we've been discussing the employee experience. We have looked at a few facets. That's a very wide topic, but we have looked at a few facets here and there. And today, the last Saturday of March, we are having a webinar where we're now bringing everything into conclusion, looking at all facets of this particular subject from both an employer and an employee perspective. So I'm so glad that today I am privileged to have some guests here that will help us to dissect this particular subject, in depth. First and foremost is our own internal HR consultant, lead consultant. Uh, Her name is Zipporah Courier. Zippy, welcome.
Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, viewers.
Yes, and today we are so privileged to have the CEO of Mirema School and a wonderful friend to Zippy and I. Her name is Nina Mutegi. Nina, karibu sana.
Asante sana, Tony. Such an honor to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Nina. And our third guest, unfortunately, we are having a bit of technical issues with her camera, but she's live. She can hear us. She can speak. Her name is Martha Thuku. We normally call her the HR specialist, but specifically, she's the LVCT Health Human Resource and Admin Manager. Welcome, Martha.
Thank you, Anthony, and welcome, viewers. I'm so sorry if the connections are having issues, but I think we are good to go even without the camera. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. That's the spirit. We go, we do these things, whether or no, whatever happens, we do it and we do it well. Now, as I said, today we want to discuss the employee experience, and we are bringing it from the purpose or from the perspective of of what is it that employers want from their employees, and the fact that every company is driven by employee performance. Unless you're employing robots, even those robots need an employee to direct them, and therefore this means that the success and growth prospects of your company are directly related to the performance of your company, of your employees. And today we want to bring this, as I said, from the Aurum webinar, which is hosted by Aurum Consultants, a HR and risk advisory company. And we do everything to help build winning teams. So karibuni sana. Now, Zippy, let me start from a HR perspective. We will go to Nina from a management perspective. But let me start with you from a HR perspective. Uh, how do we develop our employees' performance? This subject may sound, strange. I remember this week, I think it was this week, Zippy, we were talking with somebody, and we're discussing just a few nuances of, what HRs do, and we were talking to another HR person. And you and I were a bit surprised that some of these individuals, though they are in that space of HR, well, they were a bit like, okay, that sounds a bit technical. So I can imagine if somebody who is supposed to be an expert in HR can find some of these things a bit technical. So how about the common person out there, the equivalent of Nina out there, who is a CEO, who is an entrepreneur running their business, and they're wondering, what are you people talking about? Say, thought employees come and do what I tell them to do, and they pay them and they go. So let's help the common person understand, how do we develop our employees' performance? Zippy, kindly.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm just thinking on top of my head. We've been talking about employee experience this month, and experience is both ways when I think about this. And now that we have Miss Nina here today, and maybe she will help us understand this from a management perspective. But experience is actually two-way. The employee gets experiences, And so is the management that has employed this employee. They also have experiences with this employee. So even as we are discussing the relationship between performance and employee experience, it's important for us to have that perspective that even our bosses have their experiences about us. So what experiences are we giving each other? And how are we using those experiences to make sure the workplace is a thriving place? Now, when it comes to issues of performance and how we develop that, I think this is a subject that we need to demystify. We need to make it simple. A lot of times when we bring in the issue of performance, it sounds like a very big word. And people
Yes.
tend to run away from it. We tend to fear, and we tend to start thinking as employees, people are fault finding. But I don't think you can have a good experience if performance is not in equation, because
Yes.
it means you're just doing things for the sake of doing. But where there is performance is accountability, and we are able to see how are you doing? Are you achieving your own objectives as an employee? Are you achieving your own career growth? Are you achieving the reason why you are engaged by your employer in the first place? So performance, I think, is a very critical discussion we need to have when it comes to talking about employee experience, and also the experience the employer will need to get from you. So I think that would be my opening about experience and performance.
All right. Nina, you are at the other end of the scale, as
Yes.
now you are the one needing performance to be, you have employees, you have hired them, you're paying them, you're doing all these things. How is your perspective about developing employee performance?
Okay. First of all, I will say it's probably one of the toughest things I've been able to. I can't even say I've done it because I don't think like I don't feel like we have completed the cycle of performance management at Mirema School. But
Yes.
as a manager, basically having a performance culture is essential. And it is easier to manage performance issues when you have a smaller team, you have a small number, you know everybody by name, you know a bit about them, you know what inspires them. You're able to manage people in a smaller group that way. But as your
Yes.
team grows, you realize it's even getting to a point where you can hardly keep up on who is
Mm,
who. And so
yes.
then you have less control over the culture that that employee comes and finds. So you have your own perspective, like Zippy said, of what an employee's experience should be. But the reality on the ground, we took our ground ni tofauti. So people will tell you the first day I came, I didn't even know where the toilet was. I didn't, and it starts with basic induction. But the actual culture on the ground is something you cannot impart without a performance culture. You
Mm,
cannot control, rather. So
mm.
we have had instances where people will join Mirema School and the staff will tell them, why umekuja huku, umetoka wapi na ukakuja huku. So that usually is something that shows you that people are focused on the wrong things. So since we started the performance management process, and Zippy really managed my expectations on this because I was adamant, let's do it now. And she has told me several times, Nina, this takes years. And now I'm like, we don't have years, we have to make this now. But now I
Yes.
understand a bit better because it's something that is gradual. You introduce tools on the ground, they don't work. You train people, they misunderstand. I remember the first round of performance reviews we did, all the managers gave their staff 4 and 5 out of 5.
Mm.
And I'm thinking
Uh-huh.
if I had this many fives in this school, we would be at another level, you know?
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to go back to the beginning, retrain again. And I can see now we are getting into the flow of things. We're still reviewing our tools, but the performance culture is starting to show where you have
Mm.
less stories, even in the
Mm-hmm.
reports, because hey, we have stories for days. I did and I try and I make an effort. But the question is, where are your efforts, driven towards? What are you focusing on? What is your deliverable? So that
Mm.
culture is so key to any institution if you really want to grow and take things to the next level.
Wow. 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 Martha, you've brought, I mean, Nina, you've brought in the issue of culture, and that's a
Yes,
word we will keep using as we go
yes,
on. we go on
Yeah.
because culture, culture is everything. Every house. Today you visit my house. You know, we talk about culture and we think it's just about a corporate aspect, a national aspect. Even your own house. You know, there are things you do you, and if you're married with your spouse and your children, that you've created that becomes a culture. So that even you go to your sibling, your own brother, brother or blood sister, with her house or his house and their kids, and you two came from the same house, like say it's me and my brother, we were brought up in the same home, and we now have our own homes. Somebody visiting me and somebody visiting my sibling, they will notice certain traits that are similar, but they also notice things are done a bit differently. Tony and his sibling, they do things a bit differently. So culture is something very critical. But before I get ahead of myself, Martha, you are a HR specialist. What's your perspective on this issue of developing employees' performance?
Thank you, Tony, and I appreciate ZP and also the experience that Nina has that is really hands-on.
Yeah.
So I would like to first define what employee performance is. And to
Mm,
me, employee performance is how an employee fulfills their duties
mm,
and executes the required tasks.
mm,
And that's how do you want to to develop that and to
mm,
ensure it's at the optimum. So we have talked about culture, and as Nina said, it is easier when the organization is small. But you
yes.
will find in many organizations, the people who are holding the fort in some organizations, they did believe in this kind of structural performance management for employees. And
Mm,
so Nina has come in and found an organization that doesn't believe in that. And how
mm.
she's so energized and she wants this thing to start now
Yes.
because she knows that is the way to go. But then
Yes.
at least thank God she had ZP word to tell her, hey, it's step by step. It's not, you don't have it today because that culture has to change. So you can't start
Mm,
putting papers and tools
mm,
and then you still have the mindset that is different.
yes.
So it all starts from the management and the mindset change. And you also
Mm,
you need to understand that not everyone will change at the same levels. There are some who
yes.
will adapt today, there are some who will adapt tomorrow, there are some who will adapt after 1 year. But it's a journey. And
Mm,
the journey starts with that first leg, however long it takes
mhm,
to build that culture. And then now the other thing, to be able to develop that, then you must have a strategy. Uh,
mhm,
People must know this is what our goal, what is our end goal in this thing we
mm,
are doing. Because then when you have a vision, uh, you know this is where I'm going. And now that's when you define the road you're going to use.
mhm.
You know, if you're okay, I'm in Mombasa, so if I keep referring to Mombasa, just forgive me.
No
But
worries.
if you're coming to Mombasa, you know
Yes.
you can use the SGR, you
Mhm,
can use the flight, you
mhm.
can use the buses.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to walk? So you know very well your destination is Mombasa.
Yes. Sure.
But it's now, how do you get there? And not everyone will afford to use the airfare. So
Mhm,
it's really that end goal that is the most key. And then now, as a manager, you are able to develop what we call performance metrics. How do you want
mhm,
us to reach there? Because then
mhm,
when you are training on this, people need to understand where are we going, and then you be you develop like job descriptions for each person.
mhm.
This is
Yes.
what will be required for you in this journey, and those things needs to be done purposefully. You don't do
Mm,
them as tools. You send to the admin, distribute this, tell people to fill, and I need them in my desk by 5. It doesn't
mhm,
work like that. There has to be a
mhm,
lot of training and the why we
mm,
are doing this. So if you give me a job description, and out of this, I understand the strategy, if I'm able to describe this is how I'm going to contribute to this strategy. So
Mm.
I have bought the strategy and I have developed my own what I'm going to do to put into
Yes.
that strategy to come to pass. So once I
Yes.
sign for that, so it's not Nina who has told me because she's a CEO.
Yes.
I have said, Nina, I'll support you with this strategy.
Mm.
These are the things I intend to do. This is how I intend to do it. What do you think? So that's where you can guide me, but not you telling me, because when you tell me, now I'll do things for Nina, I'll not do them for myself. So that
Yes.
is
Okay.
that is how easily you can actually develop the performance of someone. And the only thing you'll be doing in between is the checking ins, like
Mm-hmm.
how am I doing? Am I doing this the right way? What would
Mm-hmm.
what? And you don't even tell them what to do. Now you just coach them. How would you do it better?
Mm-hmm.
You let them come with their own solutions. By the way, you'll find it very impactful. And then
Mm.
now it's continuous communication along the
Mm-hmm.
journey.
Mm-hmm.
Sio ati unanyamaza, then I messed somewhere, you record it, so that at the end of the journey, you are reminding me. You remember in January, that day we
Mm-hmm.
went to Mombasa.
Mm-hmm.
So it's as we address things as they come, so that
Mm.
by the end, we are healed. We are not revisiting things.
Mm.
Like ladies, we have some computers in the head. We remember, and I'm sure Tony will agree with me.
Oh
We have
yeah.
this thing of remembering, you know.
Yeah.
So we
Yes.
can't bring things we dealt with in January. We can't bring them in December. Let's deal with
Mm.
them and move on. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
we when you make a mistake, for me it's a learning that this is
Mm-hmm.
not how it should be done. You get. And,
Yes.
and, and I read a story of the guy who came up with the bulbs that we use today. He tried 99 times.
Mm.
No,
Yeah.
999 times.
Wow.
Then on the 1,000th time, he got it right. And you know
Mm-hmm.
what he put as a comment down there?
Yes.
At least I know 999 ways of not how to do it.
Wow.
He encouraged himself, but we are using the bulbs all over the world. And I'm
Sure.
sure he's a multi-millionaire.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, a mistake is not a failure, it's a learning lesson. And
Mm.
then encourage feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Let people tell you how it is. I was in our field visit for our big project in Mombasa. I've
Mm-hmm.
gone. We have the project in Kwale, Taita, Kilifi, and Mombasa. I've been in all those areas, and you
Mm.
can imagine the feedback I have gotten. Yet when we are in head office, we just roll policies and
Mm-hmm.
KPIs. You get, and
Mm.
only know that you need to be on the ground to know what is going on. And if you can't go to
Mm.
the ground, listen from the ground. Those are the
Mm.
people with our clients, and they understand. So a lot
Wow.
of listening and getting feedback is important. And then when there are discussions, there are so many things like those discussions. Nina said, people
Yes.
come with a lot why they did not perform.
Yes.
Ensure that whatever discussions are remaining goal oriented and work oriented, because then other family issues come into play.
Yes. True.
So that's how I can contribute to that, and I'm sure Zippy and Nina have more, but that's what I can do. And one more thing I forgot is
Sure.
even as you do it, it's also good to kind of offer some incentives,
Mm.
along the way, like
Mm.
who are the ones who stand out in the performance.
Yes.
Let's offer some incentives. That is called healthy competition.
Mm.
Nikiona Zipi amepata this month, I
Mm.
am purposeful next month I must get. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tony, and everyone.
Wow, wow. Martha, you have really brought it so nicely, so deeply about issues to do with strategy. You've dissected to us how it works, especially from an employee perspective. And the fact that sometimes Nina, and this one, Nina, I'm sure you have to carry it out, is listening to feedback from the people on the ground. You've told them this is how we want to go, this is where we want to go, this is how we want to do it, and you've rolled it out, you've trained them, they have understood, and then they come back to you. And they tell you, okay, madam, thank you. You told us to do XYZ. I've tried it, and this is how it is showing. And what they're telling you from a CEO's perspective, you're wondering, that's not what I intended it to achieve. That's not what I intended. I intended it with XYZ. So it's the employee experience. I guess it's for both the management and the employee. As Zippy said in the beginning, it is two-way. It is not one way. It is give and take, receiving and giving feedback, and uh, and therefore it's something that is live. It has to keep going. It has to keep, both the CEO or the management has to be humble enough to listen from the people on the ground, the employees, and the employees also have to be keen and willing to listen to what they are informed and told by management in order to keep the company going. Now, to our viewers and listeners, if you have questions and comments, we would love to hear them as we continue. Today, we said this is a webinar, so you can send in your questions. We will have enough time to be able to dissect one, two, three, four questions as we go, and we would welcome you to send your views and comments here. Now, let me now move to the second aspect.
Anthony, just before you move to another comment,
Yes,
just speaking what Ms. Nina has talked about and what also Mother has talked about, the culture issue.
yes.
I'm just thinking about how we set ourselves either for success or failure, and especially when it
Mm,
comes to performance. And I like what Nina is saying. She wanted to hit the road running, and I said, you can't run before you walk. You need to start crawling, then you start standing, walk, then eventually we can run.
yes.
And one of the things I think sometimes we don't do very well is making employees understand our business, making
Mm,
employees understand who are we, what are we doing, what are
mm,
our values. We've talked about culture. What constitutes that culture? Because if they don't understand the basics, it doesn't matter how good the tools we have brought on board are, the truth is
mm,
we will not be successful. So we need to start first from the basics, understand the basics, and set a very strong foundation of success when it comes to bringing in the performance issues. So for me, I think that is very critical. When we talk about values, the values we want to espouse as an organization, and how that will affect our own performance. It's not just about statements or a word that is nice, that we will say we have integrity, or our values is being centric when it comes to customer service. What does
mm,
that really mean, and does the employee really understand what that means, and their
mhm,
role they need to play to make sure we are serving our customer? So that even by the time we are setting standards and we are saying, this is how we want to set a standard of performance, a culture of performance, there's a good foundation, there's a basis. And this brings a win-win situation where the employee is able to win because they are growing. The employer is
mm,
able to win because the productivity goes higher. So the issue of performance stops being this big mountain and becomes
mm.
a very easy conversation because we are all on the same page, and we are not having a situation where the management is in a different pedestal. The employees are wondering where are we going, or what are we doing, or why are they trying to put so much pressure on us. So it's important
Yes.
for us to start from the basics and set a very good foundation.
Thank you, Zipit. Martha, Nina, you
Tony,
have something to add? Yes.
yes, I do. I do. You poked a sore spot there while when you mentioned the idea of making sure you share the vision and you receive the feedback from the
Mm,
team. So feedback is a hard one, and this is where,
that's
as a
correct.
manager, you really have to pray for wisdom, because
Mm,
sometimes the reality of feedback is it can be used definitely positively, but
yes.
also it can be used manipulatively.
Yes.
So if you are trying to change, and this is again where we say culture eats strategy for lunch. So you could
Mm,
have a really, really, really good strategy. But if the
mm,
culture on the ground is one of resistance, if you have people who are resisting the changes that are going on in the
mm.
institution, then you
Yes.
as a manager need to really read between the lines, read between the feedback, get
Yes.
on the ground, talk to people, talk to them together, talk to them in groups, listen to them departmentally, give them a platform where they can actually talk to you directly. And that's
Mm,
when you may realize that you need to make a few tweaks. In any organization, you have the contrarian group. So
yes.
you'll have a
Yes.
meeting, you'll present the strategy, everybody will nod and clap and this is the right direction. And then there's another meeting that happens after that that completely undoes what you just discussed. And
Yes.
so the wisdom to understand those things is very important in actually making your performance culture successful. So
Mm,
understand who are the real champions of this, not to your
mm,
face, behind the scenes, and
yes.
who are the ones who are struggling with this and why. Very often you'll find it may be people who have been in the institution a long time who are used to
Yes.
doing things one way, and now
Yes.
they think, oh, maybe this is something that has been brought to take us out, to weed us out. Sometimes there are fears there, valid or invalid, and you need to address those fears in order to be able to move forward now with the tools that we're talking about. So those are the things that are not always written in a textbook, but they can determine whether your performance culture is created or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so
And,
interesting.
and maybe Nina, I can add to what you have said.
Yeah.
Yes.
As you have said, it's okay to get feedback, and you also know that you know how to see. You know it is
Yes.
credible feedback as a manager, because even
Mm,
you're there. And
yes.
then the most important thing is you must be seen to be objective
Yes.
as
Mm,
a manager. So you have a team, you need to look for the champion in your team who understands your what you are doing, because they're able to convince the others. As we said, not everyone will sail with you at a go, but there are
yes.
those the first ones who understands what you want to do, and those are the ones who would drive. And the good thing about strategy is that once we present the strategy, we have Manager Zippy, who is in this department, we have Manager Anthony and Manager Martha. So out of
Mm,
this, each of us needs to come out with, out of this strategy, what will my
mm,
department contribute? So
mm-hmm.
that we go and now form our own strategies on
Yes.
how
It's
to
true.
meet this strategy that will feed into there, because all
Mm,
we want is to support Nina with her vision.
mm,
And
mm,
so we have strategies in our different departments, and then ZP needs to look for the champion in her department
mm.
who can run with the others and convince the others. People just needs to be convinced.
Yeah.
uh, and it cannot, I remembered when I joined the church I'm going in, we used to enter church, and one of the things we would say early was, we are so and so, and this is our vision. And then we
Mm.
will all say the vision. Initially, me, it was not making sense to me, but the ones who it made sense, they are pastors now.
Wow.
Because they ran with it. Yeah. Me,
Yes.
because I didn't buy immediately, I'm where I am.
Mm,
But I have bought it, and I'm working. Everything I do towards those church deeds is because
yes.
of that vision. So if
Yes.
we all understand the vision, that
Yes.
is the first time. And that means a lot of education on the strategy, on the
Mm,
vision, on the mission, and the values. The how we are going to do this strategy is also important.
mm,
Where I work, we have periodic trainings. We trained you last time. We don't care. You have to listen again. we have
yes.
we have some PowerPoint. We
Yes.
take a few minutes in a big meeting. We revisit. Yeah, we
Mm,
revisit. So until in your mind, it doesn't have a choice but to stick.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, your purpose
Yeah.
must be met. And
Mm.
you don't want to push and through the throat. You want people
Mm-hmm.
to be collaborative and they work with you. And
Wow.
then those small things, and I talked about incentives, it doesn't have to be money. Some people
Yes.
think incentives is just money.
No, not
You
really.
know, if me and my department perform well, just write an email to us. Hmm? We will
Yeah.
so be happy. Yay! The executive wrote this. Give me a certificate of
Yeah.
excellence,
Yeah.
in front of people.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they'll be happy. It can be very small things. When there is money, it's okay to put an envelope there with the certificate. Attach the envelope and just reward people. The word thank you is so good. It goes a long way. And
Wow.
you find many people expect that, mother, that's what we are supposed to do. Why should I say thank you? I mean, motivation is not money. Money, if you add money, within the month, I have new needs because I have more money.
Sure.
But when you say thank you, I feel so proud in my heart
Mm.
that, oh, the executive appreciates what I do. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow. Imagine that is an addendum from Martha. Imagine if you gave her the main thing. Dude, we will. Martha has deep stuff, man. That's just an
But you
addendum.
see,
She's giving
Tony,
us.
they are not easy to implement. So
Yes, I
you
know.
see, someone has to purpose to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I'm praising you because your addendum is so rich, sometimes you speak and I'm just jotting down notes here because we are receiving. Because Martha, you've said something very powerful about rewarding. And I'm sure Nina and Zippy, you guys can also appreciate about this, that rewards, just a thank you, employee of the month. You put the photo of the person and the title there, employee of the month, that person feels so good. And if people walk into that office, say, and they see Anthony Courier, employee of the month, trust me. And now what Martha was describing, healthy competition. And that employee of the month is brought by certain parameters. So you are generating a certain culture. Now, I can see questions and comments coming in. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Terry. Indeed, we appreciate the fact that you're appreciating what 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 we are discussing. And I want to go now to the second aspect that I wanted to bring in. Now you've discussed about developing performance. The question is, how do you create a culture of accountability? Hey, this is a deep one. Zippy, give us some perspective on this, because trust me, in a company you're dealing with employee experience, how do you create a culture of accountability? What's your take, Zippy?
Thank you again, Anthony. A very good conversation. The culture of accountability starts with me as a leader. If
Mm,
I'm as a leader, I am not being accountable, it will be difficult for me to require of my people to be accountable. So, as leaders, first, it's important for us to realize we need to be accountable to ourselves. We need to be accountable even to our employees. One of the things that I have learned and we've been doing is being accountable on our own KPIs as directors to our staff. This is what we
mm,
are working towards achieving. This is what we have achieved. This is where we are failing, and this is the plan we have to make sure we don't continue on the path of failing, but we are succeeding in what we are doing.
mm,
Now, once you start setting that pace as a leader, it becomes easy for your team leaders or the people reporting directly to you to catch the fire and know if my leader is being accountable and being open and transparent, then I
mm,
need to actually read the cue and also be able to be accountable. One of the things that we must also do is to make sure it's very clear to our people what we are holding them accountable for. Mother has talked
mm,
about, for instance, job description. We are talking about performance. We are setting KPIs. Are they clear that we are going to hold them accountable for achieving or not achieving these KPIs? The other thing that we need to think about is We have set a culture of accountability. What happens if I'm not being accountable? What are the consequences of me not being accountable? Is there any downside to it? Because sometimes I think we speak a lot and the action is missing. So we need to put our words into action. We need to action what we are talking about and make sure we are holding people accountable. And when they are not accountable or where they have failed, then there are consequences to those actions. Um, of course, we have to make sure we keep, a track of what's going on, so that again, if there are failures, then we know we need to go back and see what went wrong, why did it go wrong, what could have been done better, what is the need here.
Yes.
Do we need to train? I like what Mother has said. They often have trainings and they have to keep on doing the same training. Doesn't matter how many times you have listened to it. Even if it's boring, we are going to hammer it on you until you actually understand this is what we are expecting. Sometimes we train and people honestly just forget because of the pressure that comes every day with the job. So we are moving, but I forget what I was told in January. So someone needs to come and remind me this needs to be happening, and this is how we are going to do this. So it's important to look for at the issue of accountability from a place of, as a leader, I need to be accountable. I need to hold the people who are reporting to me accountable, and there
Yes.
needs to be consequences for not achieving what we've agreed. And these consequences perhaps also need to be to the team leader. As a team leader, if you are failing, what are the consequences that come to you? Who are you reporting to? Who are you
Yes.
being accountable to? Other than because when you're a team leader, it's easiest to tell your staff, I am the leader. I don't have to be accountable. But is there someone up there you're being accountable to, and they are actually
Yes.
putting you on the spot when you have not done what you're supposed to be doing? Because that's where the consequences come. Some of us have gone through business coaching, we're still doing business coaching, and when you go to your coach, you are put on the spot. You're in serious trouble when you don't actually get to do your work the way you're supposed to do it. Yeah. And we need to be transparent, even to our staff. This is where I am accountable for. And if I don't achieve this, or if you don't do this, then it means I will not achieve. And it means even during my accountability, I will be reporting failures, not successes of what I'm achieving at the end of the day.
Wow. 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 Nina, we
Yes.
have heard from the HR expert. I want to hear from the
Yes.
CEO, the chief executive. Tell me, how have you been
Well,
implementing the culture of accountability from your end?
yeah, I think very much what Zippy said is practical on the ground. And Martha touched on it as well. First of all, you need to be very clear about the structure, the hierarchy, the organogram.
Mm,
Who reports to who? And what are they reporting and how are they reporting. At Mirema, we are trying to get to the point that we're even creating templates for reporting because, again, you don't want people to be reporting the wrong things
mm,
or to be creating a report of their choice because it is in human nature for us to focus on the things that perhaps we are good at, perhaps we are more conversant with, which may not be in line with what the business actually needs. So
yes,
if you do not have some kind of guidance for individuals and make it clear that this is a person that is supposed to do it, this is their line manager, this is the frequency of reports, that has been a game changer. We are still a work in progress when it comes to reports because now I find they don't move from maybe senior management through to me, but I need to work on that to make sure that now we have a good template for getting the reports in a way that is not you need a report that is to the point, that is analyzed, that is showing recommendations. So you're the manager. So this is what has happened. Fantastic. What are your recommendations? What is your analysis of the situation? Because when everything is just being, thrown at you, sometimes
yes,
it's also overwhelming and it causes people to stop thinking. It causes people to stop being accountable for the
yes,
success or failure of an event or an activity or a program or a campaign that you're running. So
yes,
I'm now requiring my team to, okay, you've given me the information, have you analyzed it, what are the key findings, what are your recommendations, what policies do we need to review based on this, and then that creates more accountability. In many organizations in transition, you find everybody wants the leader to make the decision. If it works, of course it's great for you, but if it doesn't, it's also you who said, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and it all, and unfortunately the real implementers are on the ground. It's the people who are doing the work who are implementing the strategy. So it's very unfortunate if I as the leader get all the credit for the success of a campaign, when in reality, yes, I led on it, but the people doing the work are the ones on the ground. So for us, having an organogram has been really helpful, a functional organogram, and we've had to change it several times, and we are still developing it and growing it. And I don't think an organogram is ever static. And then going through the process of reviewing and standardizing all the JDs again, so that if there's something that doesn't work, who was supposed to do it? Has it been clearly assigned to somebody? And how does it translate to reports? So that's the, the paperwork side of things. But on in addition to that, there's a lot of empowerment that needs to happen for accountability
Mhm.
to go up.
Mhm.
So, like this now new academic year, I'm looking at having a leadership forum that will run on a monthly basis, so that being accountable comes with fear. What if I get it wrong? What if I make a mistake? And so you also have to create a space where it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake, as long as you followed the process of getting approval, etc., etc. Because you also don't want everybody to just do what they want.
Yes.
So that whole empowering of the leaders is now sometimes the missing piece, so that you can say, yeah, I did this, it didn't work out. The things we learned were one, two, three. So now we know how not to make a light bulb in this way. Let's try another
Yes.
way. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, empowerment, I think, is a missing key very often. So that if someone makes a mistake, if you come down on them too hard, then they probably will not lift their head again to even give an idea or a suggestion.
Wow. 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 That's, folks, that is what is called practical application. Yes, that is what we call practical application from a living what's a live organogram, that is still, shifted and made to suit, as the company grows, and then the issues to do with empowerment. I like that, Nina, because that tells to our listeners and viewers, that tells you the practicability of putting a culture of accountability, that you have staff whom you have this team, you have developed a strategy, you've brought it in, you're creating a culture, and now you're in a culture of performance, and then now you've got to keep people accountable. And I like the way Zippy have said, from the top, you've got to be accountable going down. But before I go too far, I want to hear from Martha. Martha, what's your take on creating a culture of accountability?
Okay, Anthony. So for me, I so agree with Zippy and Nina. Um, and the thing of starting from the top, what I like about Nina is that she has she's the top, and she's leading this process.
Mm,
So when you lead from the top, and you have already have an overall strategy that defines the success, how success will look like.
mm,
So even as you're communicating, you are already aware of how does success looks like. So even as you put in the key result areas, as ZP alluded, then you are aware that should this happen, this will be success. And
mm,
then you gain commitment by letting people define their own, they commit to what they need to do. And if they
mm,
can come up with them, then it would even be better, of how someone, what am I going to do to achieve this. Um, at the end of the day, Zippy talked about communicating even the consequences. Should you not then be accountable? The most
mm,
important thing, even as you are defining your values, you also have to have things that are zero tolerance in your organization. So even as you have these key results
mhm,
areas, the how you are doing them also takes into account.
mhm,
So when you have zero tolerance, um, this is the boundaries we will do to be able to achieve what we are looking for.
Yes.
So communicate those boundaries. And also they are kind of, you have to use trainings. You need to have policies. So of fraud, you need to have policies of like you check the labor laws. There are those issues to do with uh, organization. You do wrong to the organization. You don't support your bosses. You are always undermining them. All those things are in the employment law, and in the consequences are there, and you are able to communicate those. Let people know what the consequences are, and reinforce them by not just speaking about them. Reinforce them by making sure if someone then violates, then you implement those consequences. So communicate those boundaries.
Looks like Martha lost her connection there. But I like the fact that she has brought the issue of boundaries and consequences in creating a culture of accountability, because people have to know the boundaries. And you know, somebody once told me, I think it's a pastor where we're fellowship in church, that God, a vision, by the way, boundary is not a big, it's not a big bad thing. Eh? A vision is a boundary, by the way, for example. Because even the Bible says where there is no vision, a people perish. Some versions say people cast off restraints. So a vision is really a boundary that tells you this is the way we are going. This is what we are doing as Mirema School. This is what we are doing at Aurum Consultants. This is where we are doing at, at LVCT Health. A vision casts a boundary. This is where we are going. So our vision is not to become, if you are a Mirema School, you are not intending to become a bank. We are not intending to become a consultancy. Our vision and focus is being a school, and therefore creating a culture of accountability means then there are consequences if we shift away from the boundaries that we have created. And just to add something here, for you, Nina and Zippy, because you're aware, there is one of our fellow core, because we all undergo business coaching from the same source. There's one of our core, you know, one of our colleagues whom we are undergoing this business training, that one day explained something that I found so powerful. A CEO of a group of companies, and he describes the way that him as a CEO is so accountable to his staff, that they know these are the goals for the company for this year, say for 2022, and they have broken them down in terms of, say, our target for revenue is say 10 million, and he has broken them down, say, to each department, and therefore I think it's every month or every quarter, he is able to show very clearly our target for this particular division or this particular company within the group of companies was we were to achieve, say, 3 million shillings within the quarter. How much did we achieve? 3.2. So we surpassed our target. And therefore, because we surpassed our target, because the way Martha said it, because it's the employees who helped deliver the target, then he gives them bonuses. He gives them a reward because of achieving their required targets. Meaning he is holding himself accountable to them, and he is also simultaneously offering them an incentive, not only to see where we are, where we are going, and if we surpass what we have targeted, there is a reward, monetary and non-monetary. And therefore, you're creating a culture of excellence, a culture of drive, a culture of pushing hard, a culture of accountability. The way Zippy said, from the bosses to the employees, there has to be accountability both ways. And therefore, you can imagine now the employee experience. If I remember well, while other entities within his industry were scaling down sharply or closing down altogether, he somehow managed to survive. In fact, he's even thriving in his industry, and he has a very low turnover. Why? Because he has created a positive employee experience that makes his people want to work for him, not only because they can see he's accountable, We should be accountable. We can achieve this together. We can work harder. And there is even something that there's an incentive at the end of our being accountable. I hope one of these days I'll be able to bring them into this podcast so that he can tell us the tricks that he uses to survive in that cutthroat industry that he is in. Now, our time is really going, and I also want to appreciate the comments that we're getting. Terry Shiudo said she's tuned in. Joseph Mburu, thank you for the praise that you've given us. That very enlightening wisdom nuggets here. Thank you, Lois, for tuning in. Indeed, we appreciate, as we said, if you would like to send your comments, we would love to hear them, especially as it regards the particular topic we are discussing about employee experience. Now, as we head towards the close of our discussions today,
Tony, before we head toward the close, can I just say
yeah,
something
sure, go ahead.
about incentives? Huh?
Mm,
This is now one of the pitfalls we fell into as Mirama School, and I think it would be nice to share it so that other people don't necessarily have to go through that. So, what you reward is a
mm-hmm.
very important thing in your organization.
What you reward.
And what you reward, why do you reward people? Do you reward them
Mm-hmm.
for giving you some inside information about what's going on in a department? Do you
Mm-hmm.
reward people for doing work that they're supposed to do anyway?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the pitfall we fell into. At Mirema,
Mm-hmm.
it reached a point where for anybody to do anything extra, it
Mm-hmm.
was, what is the allowance? What do I get? What do I get
Ah,
paid for this? And that created something that became a monster for a while, so that
mm,
nobody wanted to do anything extra. And it reached a point where anything we wanted to do that was excellent, that was superior, that was, next level,
mm.
the expectation was bring a consultant to do it.
Okay.
Now, what that created in terms of culture was a very negative thing. And we
Yeah.
had to strip down to the basics again, stop doing all the allowances. And actually, COVID really helped with that. Stop all the
Mm,
allowances and start again and rethink this. What exactly is it that we are rewarding? Because if you're
mm,
rewarding people for excellence, which they're supposed to do, that is what takes someone on a performance management scale from a 3 to a 4 or a 4 to a 5. Then if you have to be incentivized to do that, then that skews the whole process. So I just
exactly.
maybe wanted to throw in a word of caution about, be careful what you incentivize for. Definitely
Yeah.
incentives are a great thing. Be
Mm,
careful what you incentivize for and how you go about it. Let it be an open thing. I think Martha touched on that as well, because when you are not seen to be fair, uh,
yes.
so, as a manager, there is you have to be fair,
Mm,
but it's also a separate thing to be seen to be fair, because people
mm,
must understand why that happened. And then you must aim to do things consistently. You cannot, incentivize one person for this and not another. So be careful
yes.
if you want to incentivize for something, because then you have to be able to do it broadly.
Across the board.
Yeah, we're still, it's still a work in progress for us, I must say, but it's just something to throw out there. As your business grows, you need to have some structure around it, and then whatever you
Yes.
incentivize is what you are appreciating and applauding. And so if you want to take things to the next level, incentivize for next level thinkers, next level
Exactly.
doers.
Exactly. 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 Exactly.
I just
Yeah.
want to add something to that, Nina, because what you
Yeah.
said is very true. And as businesses, we need to be very cautious what we are rewarding people for. One of the things I always keep on telling my clients, you don't reward people for achieving their goals, because
No.
that's what you are paying a salary for. That's why you're giving them benefits. And
Yeah.
basically, that's what you have simply employed them to do. Now we
Mm,
reward for exceeding, going way beyond
expectations.
what
Mm,
we have engaged you to do. And now those
yeah.
are the things we need to think around. What number one, what is the objective? What are we trying to achieve when we are
Yes.
rewarding? Because if there is no objectivity, then at some point, like you're saying, it will become a monster. So it needs to be very objective what you're trying to achieve. It needs to be something that people fight for. Everyone wants it. It should not be
Mm.
something that is easy to get. Because again, when it becomes easy to get, then people will not work for it because they know it will come anyway. If we are used
Yes.
to getting bonuses at the end of every year, why should I put more effort? And Nina is putting effort anyway. I will still get benefits or I'll still get a reward
Mm.
because Nina put extra effort and all of us achieve. So we need to be very objective and, like you're saying, have a very clear structure around it because, again, rewards or these incentives can become very subjective and can end
Mm.
up creating a very negative culture. It can end up creating a very toxic work environment. While we intended it for good, it ends up working against us.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Zippy, because
Okay, Tony, let me comment on that.
yes,
I remember I was advised of an organization.
yes,
Actually, there you go. You
hmm
will only grow if you tell on other people. If you are the one who is giving negative feedback of what is happening to the ground, you become tight with the executive, and every time you just keep on growing financially
wow,
because of that. And then, but I have worked with in an organization where I was so happy because of that reward thing,
mm,
because it was purely performance. You remember we said separate issues, let it just
yes,
remain, be performance oriented, and this has to be the work of the organization. um, we had this system that you key in your goals, and
yes,
then you key in what you have achieved,
mm,
and then your manager gives you a score. In the minute the machine is the system is put in that with that score, it will
mm,
calculate, even because there they were rewarding. The merit was on performance. So
yes,
performance appraisal equals merit increment. And once you put that score, it's a system that calculates the percentage you will get for salary increment. And you will see those who scored, the system will just list the ones who have performed without
yes,
anyone talking about it. So
mm,
the issues were just between the managers and the staff, because the staff want a good score because the system is the one that will calculate. But then
mm,
there are no discussions on this as far as the system is concerned. So I found that very objective. It is very important to remain objective and separate issues. Nina, if I'm your relative, I'm still working for your organization and I'm expected to perform. And you
yes.
shouldn't think that you should give me more money. If you want to give me money, you give me yours, but don't attach it to salary increment in the organization. If
Yes.
you want to help me as a sister, you help me with your money. So, because
Mm,
then if you don't separate those, and then if you are the type who keeps on listening to what people are saying, then that's the person you are rewarding. Most people, by the way, they lie to you.
mm,
Not always, but you'll
yes,
find maybe they are doing something, but because they want you to look at them in a positive perspective, you will never think that they are the ones who did that thing. So you can even go around checking and having discussions, but you'll never think they are the ones. And
yes.
that's the goal of people who come very close to their bosses. They want to be seen
Mm,
like they are the ones who are working. They want to be seen that they are the ones who are coming to report the bad people. But if you close your eye and you get them investigator, you might find very bad things that past
mm,
you. So it
mm,
is, so that incentive things, it's true. I agree with you that those incentives also need to be checked, so that then
mm,
you give incentive for the correct thing. So me,
mm,
that's what I would say. Creating a culture of accountability, it doesn't have a cut and throat thing that you need to do. The most
yes.
important thing is you define your successes, you define your strategy, you define the key result areas. A good practice is where I'm working. Every month we have an institutional feedback forum where
Mm,
everyone comes and presents. This is what I'm working on in the strategy. First of all, you put the strategy number in the main strategy. This is what we are achieving. This is what we have been doing this month. This is what we had promised last month. This is what we have been able to achieve. And this is our challenges. And the people in the team, because it's a big organization, mostly we do it on Zoom. You find people helping. Maybe you go try this. And by the time we are leaving that meeting, it's not a waste of a half morning. We take
Mm,
that meeting from 8 to 1. But I'm telling you, it is very helpful because it keeps us in check. We get to see where we are getting challenges. We get to
yeah.
see where we need to improve. And we also get to see where we have succeeded. Where we have succeeded, we clap. Where we have not succeeded, how else can we do it? And every
Mm,
department presents their thing. So we keep each other accountable. I find that a very good key. It's a good practice if organizations can adopt that to keep themselves accountable. Thank you.
mm. Wow, wow, wow. Internal accountability, holding yourself as an organization to account. And Martha, that example you gave about that particular entity where incentives were given for basically Udaku. I remember that. Yeah, and that company did not go very far. They actually had to be closed down because I was working in the same place. So indeed, those are very powerful examples of what to do and what not to do. If you're going to keep the employee experience, because when you talk about the employee experience, I remember my experience in that particular entity Martha is talking about was not nice because you see the manager who is receiving this information, walking into your branch, walking into your department, and you think, Sam, this guy has just come to look for victims that he has been given in Itangode, the grapevine. The grapevine has told him Tony is XYZ, that the manager is ABCD. That created a toxic environment that was, and that's how not to do it. And I like the way Nina, the way you describe Martha, the way you're describing it, Zippy, we are describing how to do it, how to create a positive employee experience that generates, a positive culture within company and a high performance environment and a high performance company at the end of the day. Now, as we come to close, uh, I have a question that as you ladies were talking, I was just thinking about how do we ensure performance management contributes to positive employee experience and engagement. I was thinking, okay, we have discussed all this, and probably we have hinted here and there. Zippy has thrown a word here. Nina, you've described it in a way, while as by the way, as you were discussing, Martha has given us hints here and there. But as we come to a close, I want now to focus it now, right here, right now. How do we ensure performance management contributes, to positive employee experiences? Because as you said, we can decide to put a target. Like, let me give an example. I worked in a bank. I worked in the banking sector for a long time. And we used to get bonuses. But now these bonuses, as Nina, you've described, they only came after the target that has been given by the board to the CEO has been surpassed. For example, you've been told back then we were not having figures, the ones you're seeing here, of 40 billion a year. Back then, figures were a bit more modest. So it was like if you hit 600 million, because it was several years back, man, it's like you've achieved the world. So anything above 600 million annual profit was like, wow, sasa tunajua good things will happen. But if we just hit the target, we just know sawa, we'll not get anything. If we surpass the target, then there is something. So just briefly, because I'm sure you have hinted about this here and there, Zippy, briefly, how do we ensure that performance management contributes to positive employee experience?
I think, Anthony, like you're saying, we have touched on this a bit here and there, and I'll go back to what I said earlier about setting the right foundation when it comes to setting performance management and making sure the employee experience is good. Performance management should never be such a dreaded term in any organization or exercise. It needs to be something people look forward to. So we need to simplify this process. We need to simplify how we are doing performance management. And one of the things that we always keep on saying, this is not a time, and Martha has touched on this, this is not a time to settle scores. As a manager, I should not wait until December when I'm doing evaluations to start bringing things that happened in January or February or beginning of the year. Because the question becomes, I mean, where have you been? We've seen scenarios, for instance, where someone has not been performing and it's genuinely they've not been performing, and we are thinking, what do we do? And one of the things that comes to mind is we need to exit them. But one of the things we also need to remember as employers and as HR people is replacing an employee is very expensive. So sometimes the question is it better to replace or is it better to train this person? Where are the gaps? Where have we failed this employee in supporting them? Because remember when they came in and they were able, they looked like they are able to deliver their CV, their qualification, their skills, everything directed to they are able to deliver. So if they are not delivering, then we need to ask the questions why. Have we failed in the way we are managing this employee from the word go? So it needs to be a process of how we are managing people. There are people who will definitely fail and they are not performing, and we can't keep on holding them and we need to let them go. But for us to make it a good experience, it needs to be a journey we are working with employees. They need to understand expectations. We need to give feedback. We need to communicate regularly. We need to make sure where the ball is being dropped, we are not keeping quiet. We are talking about it. I've worked with Nina. Nina is very good at saying, you're dropping the ball. Who is dropping the ball here? And I like that because we are not waiting until things have gone south to come back and complain about it. We are being very proactive in how we are managing situations. And so is performance. Let's be very proactive how we manage our people when it comes to performance. And I believe that will give employees a better experience. It will make them embrace performance and not dread it because it's not something that we should be dreading, but something we should be embracing.
Performance management. Nina, Zippy has said it is not an ogre to be feared. Kindly give me your perspective.
Well, yeah, just to, agree with Zippy on what she has shared, it is true. It is better to be direct. I think in terms of employee experience, the best part of employment is knowing how you're doing. Am I doing a good job? People desire feedback. In fact, I've noted the younger generation, the millennials, they can't even function without feedback, and they're perhaps better able to take feedback than the older generation, my generation.
Yes.
But what I know is when you get feedback, you have an opportunity to improve. Of course, you'll get those staff members who will not
Yeah.
deliver, and you can analyze and think and wonder why. But if you have given some clarity on what the role entails, then it is that person's job. That's why you're paying them to deliver on that and hopefully even surpass your expectations.
Yes.
You have to be critical on yourself and ask, okay, if people, I'm hiring people to a particular position and they're not doing well or they're leaving or I'm feeling like they're not delivering, am I clear enough as now the manager on what it is I require them to do? Have I supported them, etc.? And if you have done that, then there's no problem. You just need to separate and part ways. But for those employees that really are making an effort, I think the clarity on how am I doing is a very good thing. I'm usually very keen to separate employee satisfaction and employee engagement, because it doesn't mean that everybody will like you and everybody will say, oh, I love my job, but they know the parameters of working in your institution. They know the things
Yes.
that are deal breakers. They know how to get their next contract. They know the things you value as an institution. And that is now the engagement that to me is much more desirable than satisfaction. Satisfaction, is something that works and wanes. It's up and down. It's not always there. It's like trying to aim for happiness. Happiness is a very transient state. So ultimately the clarity in knowing what it is that is valued in this space is what the employee will get. And I think that's a positive thing, because now then as an employee you can also plan your life. You have some job satisfaction and some job, what is the word, where you're sure of the job, where you're not worried that tomorrow Nina will wake up in a bad mood and decide your department needs to be dissolved. There is
Yes.
clear deliverables. It isn't
Mm.
an emotional decision.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you, Nina, for that. Because the, as we said earlier, some people, and I like the fact that you've said the younger generation, those who are coming into the workplace now, for them, feedback is something. It's something like it's ingrained in them. We who are a bit older, Urabua, Tony, let's have a seat. Let's discuss your performance, and immediately you start sweating, imagining, son. you
Yes.
know, and probably it's the way we were cultured when we were younger. Our culturalization was a bit more. There was no like thank you, no like good work. It was like you're only called in to discuss your performance if it was pathetic. But if it was good, you knew your performance is good if you're not called in to discuss anything. But when it is perceived to be poor, when you hear we need to discuss your performance, son, sasa hapa, I am in for a beating. So yeah, it's to that change in perspective, especially as generation shift has, it's both a good thing, but it also has got to be managed, because if people expect to be told thank you for doing what they're supposed to be doing, dude, you need to perform higher so that we can tell you, okay, you've done well, but you can do better, you know. Martha, what's your few remarks concerning this performance management aspect of employee experience?
I was listening to Nina and it hit me. People's perspective on your work employment can be
Mm.
based on perceptions more than even what is the reality. I had an experience during COVID season when employees are being asked to work from home. In their mind, they are going to lose their job. And I'm thinking,
Mm.
the whole world is working from home. You're not even thinking about sending people home. What is this coming from? I could not understand
Mm.
that aspect. But as we said, culture is also very important. Um, but for this particular question, how performance might contribute to employee experience, it's also, as we said, where there is a strategy, then it's good to define job roles and how those job roles contribute, each individual job role, how does it
Mm.
contribute to the bigger picture? So when I get, have you ever known when someone knows they are contributing to the bigger picture, they can do everything to ensure that
Mm.
happens. They're happy, they feel they belong, they feel trusted. You get,
Yes.
you can
Mm.
imagine even like equity, they would even give shares for people to own their
Mm.
organization. Ni kama when now like you have this consultancy,
Mm.
ZP and Tony, it is your thing. So everything you are doing is for the success of this
Yes.
organization. The same feeling should reflect when it's an employee. So when you get
Mm.
buying, you make sure everyone commits to the strategy and they give you what do they want to do. They feel like they
Mm.
are the ones who have done it. It's
Mm.
okay. In fact, when you put teams and give them projects to do, they just feel this is their thing. The only thing you
Mm.
need is feedback. You don't go to them and start telling them what to do. You let them come up with, be innovative, and they initiate things and then they come and give you feedback. That's a very good thing. And we talked about being seen to be objective, not no
Yes.
favor things of human resource. of people. Don't be seen to be unfair. You know,
Mm,
fair dealings. Even if you
mm,
like Zippy so much, let us not know. And even
mm,
if we know, let us not see it being practiced
mm.
against, when it's being practiced at the expense of ourselves, it
Yes.
doesn't come, it doesn't augur well. So
Mm,
when you have people who are working for you, let me tell you, it will definitely contribute to the performance of that organization because they
mm.
are committed to doing it. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow. Ladies, today we have dissected this topic very clearly. We have put under the microscope the various aspects from a managerial perspective, an executive perspective, to an employee perspective, how you can be able to make your employee experience positive while they are working with you. And I remember when we were preparing, to discuss this with Zippy, we were looking at the facets and they were so wide. We have not even done half of what we could talk about employee experience because the subject is really, really wide. And also at the end of the day, what we're trying to say to employers out there, Nina, you being one of them, and others who are listening to us, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and big managers, we're not saying that you babysit your staff. You hold them like a 1 year old, cuddle. No, 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 no. It's just creating an environment. And that environment can be high demanding, high performance. I was listening, one of my friends who is in the banking sector, now that banks are announcing their results for 2021, Martha mentioned Equity Bank, and I saw this week they mentioned some very big figures. And one of their main competitors, who I'll not mention, their main competitor, somebody who works in there told me when the half year results for 2021 came out, the figures that Equity produced were substantially higher than their nearest rivals. And from the top, the management said, now we are revising our targets. Nina, your targets, you are supposed to bring deposits of 1 billion. Now your targets have shifted to 1.5 billion. I mean, your targets were to sell loans of, say, 7 million. Or, okay, let's put it like 70 million. No, your target is to sell loans worth 75 million. Now, target may shift you June. And they were set in January. They've been shifted in June. So you have another 6 months to up your game further, remembering that the target you were given in January was already high enough. So, and there's nothing you can do. You just have to shift. It is a competitive world out there. And he was telling me nobody complained. They understood the yeah. You don't want, if you're expecting to get your bonus because you hit 70 million or 700 million, whatever it is that your target was, and it has been increased by another 50%. You can't go back to management at now. You guys gave me a hard target. And now you've increased it even further. You can't go complaining. Dude, you shift focus and you engage gears and you go for it. That's the world that is out there. And this is a very high-end corporate world. So what we're saying when you talk about employee experience, and Nina, I can see you nodding and agreeing with me, it's not about babysitting staff. It's not about babysitting employees. It's about creating an environment for people to achieve, for people to go for it, to work hard and and, and, and and have the necessary tools to be able to achieve. As Martha has just said it, it's an issue of creating an environment where employees self-manage, create their own targets, go for them, and yeah, grasp them. And from there now, when they're being told thank you, giving given an award, it's because they have been high performance employees. And remember, even you, Nina, and Zippy and I, we are still employees of a company, even when you're a CEO. There's still somebody who is asking you hard questions. So one thing that employees also need to understand is that even their boss has a boss. It only ends up at the board of directors. And they are the ones who are dictating the agenda. So we are all in this together. And therefore, we want to conclude by saying, while this topic cannot be exhaustively discussed within a session like this within a month. The hope is that we have enabled employees and employers, business people, to understand that creating a positive employee experience can offer wonderful benefits in terms of engagement, in terms of incentives, drive, in terms of results, and in terms of retaining the best of the best. So, with that, we come to the end of our podcast today. I want to thank you, Nina, very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and join us. Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate. Martha, thank you. Despite the camera going off, I could hear your throat is also not very. I think the change of environment to Mombasa, but you still made it. We are very, very appreciative. Thank you very much.
Thank
Uh,
you.
yes, Zippy, our in-house HR consultant. Thank you for being the intellectual, what do you call it, intellectual flagship when it comes to discussing matters here at the podcast. And to you, our viewers and our listeners, thank you very much for taking your time from your Saturday. Yeah, thank you for taking your time to come and listen to us, and we appreciate your time. And what we would like to tell you is that here at Aurum podcast, Aurum webinars, our desire is to be able to bring in information that helps both employees and employers, business owners, entrepreneurs, and business managers, and also people who are employed to be able to see HR in a different way, and especially when it comes to the employee experience. If you're out there and you're wondering, okay, you guys discuss some very deep stuff, how do I get started? At the bottom of your screen, you can see contacts that you can get in touch with via Facebook, via YouTube, LinkedIn, via email, via website. You can get in touch with us. We would love to come in and plug with you in your business to be able to reset your employee experience, and shift it if it is very negative, to shift it to a positive trend, and to be able to get more from your employees and to create a harmonious working environment. So get in touch with us. We will be glad not only to help you on this. If there's something Nina or Martha, she's described their companies, Mirema School and LVCT Health. If you'd like to know more about these institutions, kindly get in touch with us. We would love to connect you with Martha and with Nina on the same. So, with those few remarks, I want to appreciate you all. Nina, thank you. Zippy, thank you. Martha, thank you. Our viewers and listeners, thank you for taking your time to come in. Next month, which is next week actually, we will be discussing something fresh, something new in the HR experience. But until then, God bless you. Take care. Have a nice weekend. See you next Saturday, same time, same place. God bless you.